Hello everybody, one more time. Today we are here to talk about creativity. Are you a creative person? Do you consider yourself a creative person? Would you like to be just creative or even more creative than you are right now? Remember that everybody can be creative. But before knowing how you can be more creative, do you know the difference between creativity and innovation? So creativity is to create something new, right? There are different definitions, but it's basically to produce, create something that hasn't been before. And innovation is to take that creation in a practical way, to create something like you have an idea and then you produce that idea and create a physical device, for example. So innovation is to take that creativity into practice and create a product, a service. It's more, that word is more oriented in the business sense. So that is the difference between creativity and innovation. Now, some of you maybe say, oh no, I am not a creative person. So there are 9 myths and prejudices about creativity. And we are going to see those ones, and you can now relate and see, maybe I have that thought in my mind and it was not true. So let's see. So the first thought that you can have is only some people are creative because they are born with an innate gift. Really? Well, if you think that, I have good news for you, because every person is creative or can be creative. Some develop it more than others, depending on internal and external factors. So depending on how much you work on that, you can also be creative. It's not only an inspiration from the universe, from God. It's something more. So let's keep going. Creativity is scant or occasional. Do you think that? Well, if you think that, probably you are mistaken, because we find creativity facts every day. You can see daily people doing new things or doing things in a new, different way, because creativity is not just creating something super new. It can be just mixing some things that exist already and put it in a different way, for example. Let's see that in a moment. Another misleading thought that you might have is creativity is only possessed by individuals with high IQ, that is the high intelligence. But no, studies show that there is not a direct correlation between them, between how intelligent are you and what is your creativity. Creativity resides exclusively in the right brain. Well, this distinction between right brain, that is more creative, emotional, etc., and this left brain that is more analytic, rational. But actually we need both sides of the brain, because to develop a new idea, we need not only the emotional brain to create something new, we need to put it together to analyze, to do analysis and synthesis. So we need both sides of the brain. Creativity cannot be studied. Well, that is wrong. As we are seeing now, as we are going to see also more in detail, there are multiple studies, experiments, and theories. You can read a lot of literature about how to be more creative, some techniques, tools that you can use. Creativity is a mystery. Well, not is a mystery. We have more and more information every day about creativity and how we can apply to our lives. Only limited to art, advertising, music, and literature. That is what some people might think, that is creativity is only in those aspects or professions. But we can use creativity in our daily life in many aspects. Another misconception is that creativity needs anarchy, disorder, and chaos. There are processes and systematic methods that you can use to create new ideas. As I say, there are techniques and tools that you can use. And whereas, well, there are some kind of chaos in the generation of new ideas, this out-of-the-box thinking, but also there is a lot of rational thinking and methods and implementations. Another misconception is young people are more creative than seniors. Well, that is also wrong, because the problem is that experience leads many people to become conformist. The more years people have, maybe they don't have the passion to experiment with new things. So that is why some people might think that seniors have less creativity than young people, but no. Also, neuroplasticity. Have you heard about this term?
Yeah.
To shape the mind, the brain through mental activity.
Yes.
So when we create, we have new thoughts, we read a book, we study something, we learn a new language, we are creating new connections in our brain. So that is the neuroplasticity. Our brain is not static. It's something that is creating new connection and changing. Our brain is changing. So those were some myths about creativity. Everybody can be creative, as we are going to see more now in detail. And that is something that Picasso said. Inspiration exists, but you have to find it working. I think what the real sentence that he said is that when the inspiration came to him, always found him working. That is a similar sentence, but yeah, inspiration can come just out of the blue, but many times it's a work that you have to do to create new things. So there is no excuse for anybody. If you want to be creative, you can. But there are some barriers to be creative. Some emotional fear of, to expose a new idea and people don't appreciate it and people just discard that idea and make a fun of you. That is a kind of fear that you might have, but you can be brave. Also, fear of making mistakes or negative self-criticism, to be too much critical with yourself. So that is emotional. But yeah, in general, when you have a mood that is high vibration, like you are sad or worse, it's more difficult to be creative. So it becomes easier to be creative when you are in a state of well-being, of joy, enjoying. That is how creativity can flow better to you. Nature, perceptual. So worldview with limited optical mental models. We learn through our lives different things, and then we can believe that that is the only way to do things, and that is just a matter of perception. But if you travel to another country, for example, and you see things are made in a different way. So those mental models are just mental models. So it's just a matter of exploring more. And then social. There are social norms, things that the people teach us in the school or our parents, our society, and we believe that some things have to be like this. For example, Have you ever drink beer with ice? Who of you have ever drink beer with ice? Nobody? Well, in Spain and probably in other places in the UK, I think so. If you put ice in the beer, you will say you are crazy, right? Well, but if you travel, for example, to Vietnam, where I was living for 2.5 years, that is very normal. You go to a place and they bring the beer and they put a big piece of ice in your glass, and if you are new, you say, "Oh my God, this is crazy." But once you start drinking the beer, it's fine. You know, it's just it can become a bit more watery, but it is even healthier. You know, more water, more hydration. So the society gives us some perceptions, and it is our individual world to explore and to get this perception broken when we see that things can be differently as we thought all our lives. Now, other barriers that prevent creativity to be at the highest level. So if we specialize too much in something, in our profession, for example, we do always the same thing in the same way. But that is counteractive because we then stop thinking that or looking for ways to do to do things differently. Also, if we think too much, we are too much rational. Also, that prevents to be creative. So it's good to have a mix between being rational and being more creative, more emotional, more. Sometimes we don't need to put a reason to all of the things, or at least, as we are going to see later, there are different stages of phases to be creative. So at least in some phases, it's better not to be too much rational. Maybe at the end, when you compare the things, if things are actually useful, then in that case, it's useful to use the reason, but not always. Also, when we see things superficially and we don't go deep down, that prevents also to be more creative. When we see, oh, this has to be like this, and we don't explore other ways to do things. Lack of confidence. If you think you are not creative, it's more difficult to be creative. Remember, it is like Henry Ford said, either if you believe you can or you can't, you are right. So it's a matter of also attitude and beliefs. Everybody can be creative, and well, you are not less than other people. So you can have the confidence to be creative. Or maybe we can just have low motivation. We are not, we don't have any reason to explore things, to think, to move our brain, to create new things. So that's it. If we don't have motivation, that remains to be creative. Now, excessive respect for authority, inability to break rules. Well, in our society, of course, it's good to be a good citizen and follow the rules, but sometimes it's better to think out of the box, as I said before, and just, at least in a creative process, to forget about rules, and that helps you to get new ideas. And now, if we have a critical, observant spirit, so it's good to see things with a critical view, and then in that way we can analyze and we can well, see things that are not visible on the surface. And inability to listen to oneself. So it's good to spend time alone sometimes and to meditate or with other techniques, or just having a walk in the nature and listen to yourself. But if we are in the middle of the with a lot of noise, or we just are too distracted with mobile phone, TV, then we are not dedicating time to create new things. So those are some creativity barriers. And say that, let's move on, because whereas there are some barriers, there are also some favorable factors. If we have received an education that encourages us to be more creative and to have more self-esteem, that will help the individual to be more creative in the adulthood, in the childhood, of course, and also in the adulthood. About motivation, when we are motivated, that increases the effort that we put on create something new, and also the depth of the thought. So we think deeper, we dedicate more time and more quality time to those thoughts to create something. Now, distancing also helps distancing to be alone, as we said before, to find, well, to be alone or to just, for at least for a moment, to stop considering what other people say to you, that some people might be too negative, and then you stop listening to them, and that helps you to concentrate and to find different points of view. And also, when you are alone and you have, in a quiet environment, you can have more time to do the analysis and synthesis. And also time that enables to, with the years, you become more calm and you have, well, it doesn't have to be like this, but sometimes. And also it gives you more information, the experiences in your life. If you have traveled more, you have met more people, that give you more raw matter, raw thoughts to use for your creativity. And remember, everybody can be creative, and this is about attitude, as I said. And this is the same mind map, but because we are talking about creativity, it just made twice in two different ways, just to show you a little of creativity. Let's review this quickly. To have a good attitude about creativity is to have self-confidence, to be flexible, to have a approach that is comprehensive. So you pay attention in not only what you say so close to you, but everything. So it's like 360 degrees analysis synthesis. Many times it's good to follow our intuition and to foster our intuition that, especially in the Western world, is quite repressed sometimes. Our imagination, of course, critical capacity, high association capacity to associate two things that are different put together, or something like that, or we have one single thing that we can disaggregate. Curiosity, also like to be natural, spontaneous, to have enthusiasm and energy, and very important, to persevere. As we said before with Picasso, creativity will come to you especially if you are working. So if you say, I am not creative, so I will not bother. But as everything in life, most of the things you have to persevere and work on that until you get it. Now, there is a creative process that has different phases, and we're going to see one by one. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. Preparation. So we get the problem. What is the problem? What we are looking for? Then we gather all the information that we can. We get immersion in that topic that we are working on, and pues, get all the information, but also research the alternatives with all the information that we have, that what can work, what not. Okay, that is the preparation, to collect all the information and, of course, to define the problem, and then collect all the information that we can. Now, incubation. So many times, sometimes the eureka idea comes quickly to us, but usually it's a slow process that we have the information in our mind, and then just give it time. Sometimes you wake up and, oh, I got an idea, because you were thinking about that the last night, and then during your sleep, your subconscious mind was working on that, and then when you wake up, you realize of the idea. Or maybe just just you have some information, and then just one day you are alone and you're just thinking about how I can connect with this, with that, etc. So just give some time, cook it. You need to cook it. Insight. So that is when you get the idea, and yeah, sometimes it's just a flash, or sometimes it's like you put the ideas together and then you see it clearly. And then once you got the idea, sometimes that idea is, you cannot apply that idea. So you need to verify that that idea you can put in practice, so that is applicable. So, and evaluate the pros and cons of taking into action that idea. Now we're going to see a few techniques or tools that you can use to be more creative. I suppose most of you, if not all, have heard about brainstorming. What is brainstorming? So you give a problem, something that you need to research, find out, to get a solution for that problem. And then you can do this only you, but usually it is done with a group of people. So people just give ideas, no matter how crazy they are. So in this technique, brainstorming, is better to give as many ideas as you can. So it's not about the quality of the ideas, it's about the quantity. And very important, not to critique any idea. That is forbidden. You just give ideas without thinking if it is applicable, if it is crazy or not, because when you give an idea, maybe that idea is not good enough, but that idea might inspire another person or yourself for a further idea. So that is the key of this technique, to serve as an inspiration, to collect as many ideas as you can, and from there you get more ideas until you get the definite ones. So that is the idea generation stage. You can put a time limit, or just when you say, okay, whenever we get this number of ideas, we stop. So you decide. And then the second stage of this technique is evaluate the ideas. So see which are feasible, which one, if it is, for example, in a business, what of them are profitable, what is the cost of the ideas, the advantages, disadvantages, etc., etc. So you generate first all the ideas that you can, and then after you evaluate. But don't evaluate during the first phase. Don't be critic. Don't be afraid of saying whatever you have in your mind, right? And then, well, you can do this, as I say, alone, or in a group, and if you do in a group, there can be two roles. That is the facilitator, the person who coordinates, and also another person could be the facilitator also, but ideally there is another person who write down all the ideas. So that is the brainstorming. And now, who have heard about the 6 thinking hats?
Yes, Edward de Bono.
Exactly. So, well, I have here. Sorry, I only have one of them. I only have the red one. But anyway, when you play this, when you play this, you can have different hats, or maybe you can put on the floor, you can put different like papers with different colors, and then you step on one of the papers, and that is the color that you use. But if you can, it's good to have these hats, or maybe just use your imagination and be creative. So let's see one by one. The white one. So this is the one that just is about information. Don't put any opinion on that. Just this is like this, and make sure that all the information is provided and the information is accurate and is valid. Then we have the red hat. That is about emotions. So you can, when you put this hat, you say, okay, I don't feel well with this idea. I don't think it's going to work well because it's going to create conflict, for example, or the opposite. You can say, oh yes, this idea for me is very exciting. Okay, so you can use these hats like one by one, alternate, and if you do in a group, it's good that at the same time, all the people, if we say, okay, now we are going to use the red hat. So everybody use the red hat and think about emotions. How do you feel about that, right? The green. So this is just to be creative. It is like a brainstorming. So just don't think too much and generate ideas as much as you can. And then this is the one that is the optimistic, the one that gives you they say, yes, I think this idea will work because this and that and that. But we have the opposite, that is the pessimistic, devil's advocate. I don't think this is going to work. This could be like more rational. It doesn't need to be more rational if it is negative, but sometimes it happens, like if we think this rationally, I think we cannot apply this to the lab because maybe it's too expensive or for any reason. And then we have the blue hat, that is the one that coordinates everything. It coordinates the process and put the things together, analyze all the things. And the benefits of this technique is that fosters parallel thinking. So usually when we think about something, we think from 1, 2 hats. That is our, if we are, for example, more optimistic person, we tend to think more optimistically. But using this technique, without becoming a negative person, you can put the hat and then thinking also in a negative way and do the contrast, or thinking about all the information or the emotions, etc., etc. Also, it's a 360 degrees again thinking. So we think about the given topic from all the perspectives, and also separate the ego from performance. Because usually, if I consider myself an optimistic person, I'm not going to tell you negative things. But using this technique, yes, I don't have any problem. It doesn't go against my character, my ego, this character that we have constructed.
What did you go over the black hat? I'm missing that.
The black hat, well, actually, is the devil's advocate. Yeah,
Oh,
this
that's
is
the
part
devil's
of
advocate. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, it
Devil's
should be black.
advocate. Okay.
I don't know what is
Yeah.
painted
Thank you.
in purple, but yeah,
Okay.
it should be black.
Fine.
Yes. Thank you for
All
your
right.
question. Yes. Now, this is another technique that you can use. This is very comprehensive because it deals with different things.
Yeah.
This is when we want to create something to be innovative, creative, innovative. How can we generate ideas? So you can substitute components, material, people. So, for example, if we have a mobile phone, so we can think about the attributes that a mobile phone has. So we can think, okay, this is made of plastic or kind of iron or whatever it is. I don't think it's iron. Anyway, so that is an attribute of the material, right? So, but we can think, okay, what if we create a phone made of wood? It sounds quite silly, but it's an example. We can think about different materials. We can think about different shapes or components that it has, or people involved, etc. So just substitute attributes or different components of people, and just in a sometimes crazy way, just say, okay, with instead of this other thing, because sometimes crazy ways can lead to good ideas. We can combine. For example, have you heard about the chupa chups? This is in Spain. I don't know if you have heard about the chupa chups. One day somebody said, I have a sweet and I am going to put a stick in the sweet. And they created the chupa chups. This is very popular in Spain. I don't know if you have seen it. But yeah, it's just combining something with another thing. Or also another Spanish invention. Have you heard about fregona? La fregona. That is a mop. In the old times, people clean the floor with a piece of clothes. Okay, and some people just cleaning the floor like this. And one day somebody said, I'm going to put a stick on that. And they created the mop. In Spanish, la fregona. It's a Spanish invention, la fregona. I know the son of the inventor of the fregona, by the way. So that is to combine. We can adapt. So something that is created already, we adapt to create new functions. For example, some years ago, somebody adapted a mobile phone and put a camera on it and created a mobile phone with camera. That is also a combination. So you can change functions, or well, change in a different way to create something new. Because as I said before, creativity is not just to create something out of the blue. Sometimes it's just about combining things. Something that already exists, just change something. That is also creativity. We can modify. We can modify the color, the flavor, the smell. For example, in chips, now you can find any kind of flavor in chips. You can find crazy flavors when you buy
Pizza.
chips or pizza. Yeah, well, there is a pizza flavor. Yeah, exactly. So that is a good example of creativity. Change the smell, meaning, size. All right, and then put to another use. So something that already exists, you can use for something different. Well, for example, this guy has a fishbowl on the head. It's a very crazy example, but something that exists already, you can use in a very different way, right? Eliminate, like Terminator. We just remove a part of it. Or remove, put the things together and condense or reduce just to the basic thing. What if I now have the phone and just reduce everything and just create just only 4 calls? All right, we would go back to the origins. And also rearrange. We can change reverse, opposite, put in a different place. We can change the date, rotate, different sequence. All right, so as you can see, there are many different ways. When you have something, I say, okay, now I want to create something. What can I create with a hat? I can change the material, substitute the different material. I can combine with a flower and put a flower on the hat, for example. And I can adapt and make it, I don't know, bigger. I can use part of this to use, I can adapt for a cat, for example, for an animal. I can modify the color, even, I don't know, put a smell in the hat, for example. I can put for another use. What other use can have? If I turn around, I can put a plant here and, okay, just to put a plant. It's another use. I can eliminate, well, here is difficult to eliminate something, but maybe if I eliminate this part of the hat and it becomes another different hat. Or I can rearrange. I don't know what I can rearrange here. I can reverse, for example, and put like this. I don't know. So there are so many different ways to create something new from something that you have already. And now, so this is for our internal being. When can you be more creative? So this is our brain, the frequency of our brain, the thoughts that is at that moment. So when we are awake, we are in beta. We are awake and just in a normal state. That is the beta. That is the frequency our brain vibrates, the thoughts of our brain. You know, the neurons going back and forward. If we are doing something very focused on, we need a lot of attention on that, or we need to do like a exercise in sports that is, it requires a lot of effort, we are in gamma. What is alpha? Alpha is when we are relaxed, for example, doing a meditation. Theta is when we are very, very relaxed. So that is, for example, when we are just about to sleep. For example, in case, hopefully not, but in case this presentation is being not so entertaining for you, and you haven't slept very well, you might be a little of, sometimes, you know, it happens that you are like, oh, my eyes are closing and just I cannot stand awake. So that is theta. You are super relaxed and you are just in the border to get asleep. And then the delta, that is when you're sleeping. So when we are more creative is in the alpha and theta, when we are relaxed or very relaxed. The thing is in theta is that we are too much relaxed and it might be difficult to remember what we are thinking. When you know, when you are having a dream and you are middle sleep, middle awake, and you are kind of open your eyes and remember very briefly what you were sleeping, but I mean what you were dreaming, but it disappears quickly, right? So the best way to be more creative is in the alpha state. That is relaxed, for example, doing a meditation or walk alone in a forest. But remember, that is how the ideas come to you. But after, you need to use also your rational brain to put it together, analyze, to do the synthesis. So in that case, you must be more beta and even gamma, all right? But how ideas out of the blue come to you is more alpha theta state. So for example, here, do you think you could be creative here? It could be a nice moment to be creative, right? And that's all. That is the end of the presentation.
I have quite extensive knowledge about basic theories in creativity, and I think you reviewed them very well. So thank you. A few more details might have been helpful. One of the things that would be good is to take an example or something that you would like to about your life. So I'm going to tell you what I may be involved in. I may be involved as a senior in doing COVID diaries for Toronto, Canada. And I'm going to have to think about that in terms of what I would like to write and draw in the diary. And you gave me some ideas in terms of how to look at it, what I would want to get out of that diary. So thank you. How to go about doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you very much for your feedback. Also, another technique that I haven't mentioned, but I have shown you, is the mind maps. You have the central idea, and then you create the branches with the ideas that you have. And these branches can have small branches as well. So that is another technique that you can use. For example, Sue, you are an artist. How do you find creativity?
How do you find it?
Or how do you foster your creativity?
Well, all I want to really say is, because I'm in the middle of a work of art at the moment, and just basically, with me personally, it's about my own headspace. It's not that I don't have the vision. I've been doing, thinking about the ideas for years and years and years and years, but it's getting into the right headspace to get it out there. With regard to getting it, I did loads and loads of drawings and drawings. I've got portfolios of the things, and then you just switch off and then you just let it sort of come out of you, really. It's a bit meditational, really. The imaginative bit. It's letting go and letting God almost, But you have to be in the right headspace to push the idea through. You've got to be ruthless when pushing the idea through. Don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So you have you usually do the same process that, for example, when you want to create a new piece of art, you get in a state of kind of meditation, and that is how you do it. It's like the protocol, let's say, that you use usually.
Not really. What happens with me is that I have a vision in my mind, many different ones, and it gets to the point when I was saying to Dan before, that I've only got 90% of the pieces. I haven't got 100% of the pieces, because you have to see the final image before you start. However, I only had 90%. But what happens is when you sort of feel that you've just got to do it. You've just got to get that image out. And that is based on experience in the past, because I've seen the image in my mind for years, and now I've just got to go for it, really. I'd have to show you the image that I'm doing, but it's like a process that if I don't get it out there, I'll explode.
So it's a process also of incubation, as we have seen before, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. For a long, long time, and then you have to go for it, and then you let go. So you see your image, but you have to have some flexibility within the image, because the image will sometimes guide you. If you make a mistake, that's a great asset. You should go with the mistake and not be completely inflexible with it.
Yes, I agree on that. Yeah.
So many times creativity is thinking out of the box. It's something that, for example, Circo del Sol, Circo Soleil, I don't know how you say in English. You know, this company that is doing all over the world and in Las Vegas. So before, when you thought about a circus, it was the typical, you know, with animals and acrobats, etc. And usually for children, and the parents came with the children to accompany them, but they were
It's
not
Cirque du Soleil.
yeah,
It's Cirque du Soleil. It's from Quebec, and I'm originally from Quebec.
exactly.
And that's where it was started, in Montreal. And I've seen it, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it has transformed the way we look at circuses today. There are no more animal acts anymore, only human acts. How did that happen?
Exactly. So
You know, who would have thought of that?
they thought out of the box instead of
Yeah.
you know, going in the
Yeah.
thought that it's always like this. Why it has to be like this? And actually, removing the animals, that reduces a lot of the maintenance of the animals, growing up them, growing them up, feeding them, transportation. So it's reducing a lot of costs. So that was a great example. They combined circus with a show in the theater. It's a combination as well. So that's it for now then. Thank you very much, everybody, again for attending this session, and see you next week in the US. All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend.
See you next time.
Thank you.